It really can't get much more exciting than this weekend. Now, we did our job yesterday, Gooners. We beat Sunderland comfortably 3-0, and we will get into that just a little bit. But my concentration today is going to be spending my day relaxing, enjoying family, friends, and watching a football game, which consists of a game at Anfield between Liverpool and Manchester City. And the pressure is all on Manchester City. Arsenal see themselves go 9 points clear, and Manchester City now have to win, in my opinion. They have to. I don't think they can afford to go 9 points behind Arsenal. I don't think they will, not this version of Man City, be able to claw that back. Not from this version of Arsenal. And I've said that differentiation for quite some time now. This is not the Arsenal that has to rely on Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson, and Fabio Vieira anymore. This is not the Manchester City that's done the Centurions or the treble. This is not the Man City that has Kevin De Bruyne to get them out of jail in certain last-minute games. This is not the same City or the same Arsenal. And right now, I think Pep Guardiola is showing signs that he is struggling, and I hope that this continues. Because look, I'm not being cruel. Manchester City have an unbelievable few years. They've had an unbelievable decade, right? In the history of their club, they've never had a decade like they've just had. For me, when I look at what Arsenal have got, we've never had 2 decades like this in probably our history. So when you look at what we've done in that 22 years, with handfuls of FA Cups, Arsenal need to win Premier League titles. We need to win European Cups. We need to be consistently churning over domestic trophies. That's the size of our club. When you count up the trophies, we're the third biggest in England. Only Liverpool and Manchester United have more. And that's why Arsenal have needed to have done better in the last few years. But that's in the past. Let's not reminisce and talk about what we should and shouldn't have done. Let's look forward. And today, it's a massive game. And for all those that are saying, I don't care, I'm not too bothered about what Man City do, I'm not too bothered about what Liverpool do. I'm not too bothered about that game. I'm not bothered about who goes down and who gets top four. I hear it. But I think you're kind of lying to yourself if you do not want Manchester City to drop points today. We're Arsenal fans. If I said to you, you're going to watch the game and you say no, fair play. But if I said to you, fancy Man City losing today, if I could give it to you now, Manchester City lose or drop points, you're going to go, nah, don't care. We did our job. I kind of hear what you're saying, but you're kind of lying to yourself. We do want Manchester City to drop points today. Even a draw, going 8 points clear would be brilliant. Yeah. So I think the pressure's on Manchester City massively. Manchester City have won 3 games in 39 years at Anfield. That's incredible. One of them was in the 2000s with Nicolas Anelka when he was playing for them. One of them was in COVID. And there was one that was, I think, a few years ago. I look now and think that this is a massive opportunity for Arsenal Football Club. I think today we could get to around about 7 p.m. and there'll be videos talking about Arsenal winning the title. On the flip side of that, we could get to 7 o'clock today and people are saying, wow, that is a massive statement from Manchester City. They've gone to Anfield, they've beaten a Liverpool side when the pressure was on. And people might say, it's Liverpool, it's nothing impressive. Liverpool ain't great this season. Nottingham Forest beat them at Anfield, rah, rah, rah. But it's very different. This is a huge, huge game for Manchester City. This is one that they absolutely have to win now. And I know that we get to this kind of stage of the season and all the games are must win. I don't really understand when people say it must win game. Well, all of them are when you're in the title race now, because draws kill you in title races. And I think today, if they was to draw, Manchester City will walk away disappointed. They won't go, oh. Whereas I think in the past, they would have gone, disappointing, but Anfield ain't won there for so long. We'll take a point and we move. I don't think Manchester City take a point and move. I think they move 8 points behind Arsenal. And I think that pretty much clinches the title for Arsenal as long as there's not this crumble. And I just don't think Arsenal will crumble this time. Now, that could get egg on my face. I'm an Arsenal fan. People will banter me like they have done for the last few years if it doesn't go right for us. But this does not look like an Arsenal side that looks like it's feeling the pressure or crumbling yet. Now, I know we're only in February. It's not got to April, May. But I do feel like this squad has just got what it takes now to compete and get to the deep stages of all of the competitions. When you see Arsenal's performance against Sunderland yesterday, you might think it was routine. But it's the first time that I've looked at all of our attacking players and thought they played well. Gyökeres with 2 goals. Kai Havertz setting up a goal, probably should have scored. Eza coming on, doing well, probably should have assisted. Martinelli coming on, getting an assist. Gyökeres scoring 2 goals. Trossard, my player of the match, easily. And that's not even mentioning the likes of Madueke and Saka and Erdegaard, who are both injured. Arsenal have got a squad now. We look at the midfield, at how much that has been improved by the signing of Martin Zubamendi, who I think has been one of the best signings of the summer. People talk about Brian Mbumo and they talk about Ekatike and they talk about players that have come in to improve some of the lower level sides. I think Zubamendi is up there with one of the best because he's allowed Declan Rice to do what he's done this season, which is probably become one of Arsenal's players of the season. Zubamendi has complemented that. And the balance of our midfield has been so much better because of that signing. Last season with Partey, Rice and Erdegaard, it weren't quite working, in my opinion. I thought Thomas Partey was excellent, but I don't think Rice was better in that attacking 8 role. Now that we've got this double pivot and they're both doing this, which I always say, 2 pistons of an engine, I think Arsenal have always had a midfield that's ticked when there's 2 pistons of an engine working together. Whether you go back to Vieira and Petit, whether you go back to Vieira and Gilberto, or whether you go back to Gilberto and Fabregas and Flamini, I think we've always done better when we've had 2 working in a double pivot. When you've got a holding midfielder and 1 attacker and 1 10, I don't think that really has worked for Arsenal over the years, personally. That's just my opinion. The only time I think maybe we can say it did was in 22-23, where we had Partey, Xhaka and Odegaard. And that did work, and it was balanced in those 3 positions. But that's probably the only time. And I think the attack yesterday really proved its strength in depth. Gabriel Jesus, I hadn't even mentioned. Probably should have stayed on side. Bit frustrating that he does stray offside a few times. I think he's got to time his run a little bit better. But Gyökeres yesterday came on and proved that he can score goals. And people might look at the quality of the goals and go, tap-ins. But you know what? No one's talking about Gyökeres from the rival fan base because they can't. When he's banging in 2 goals and he's scoring against Leeds and he's scoring against Sunderland and he gets goals against Forest and Everton and Burnley, people might look at that and go, yeah, but it's only the crap sides he's scoring against. 1, bollocks, I don't care about that. And 2, that is really nitpicking, isn't it? Like if I said to you, oh, this striker's going to get 20 goals, you're going to go, oh, he's done quite well. Yeah, but they were only against Leeds, Burnley, Wolves, West Ham, Palace and Tottenham. Are you going to go, oh, he's not very good then? No, you're not. You're going to go, actually, he's scoring against someone in the Premier League, against Premier League quality. So I look right now and think, yeah, do you know what? I'm a big, big fan of what I've seen from Arsenal in attack. And I wasn't ready to give up on Gyökeres, but there were moments in my mindset that was telling me that. And I think I even said on stream a couple of times, don't think this one's going to work. And look, it might not still. He might not go on to be that guy. But right now, Sophie made a good point with me the other night. She said, is it not working? No. Because we are top of the league. It has got us to a Carabao Cup final. It has put us to the top of the Champions League table. And it also has got us through to the next round of the FA Cup. And that is utilising the squad. We're looking at contributions from all of these players. And when you look at other certain key elements of teams, you look at the focal point and it has been he's scoring goals, like Man City with Haaland. When I go back in history to who's won the league, just looking at Arsenal teams that have won the league, Thierry Henry was that guy, but Bergkamp used to chip in, as did Pires, as did Ljungberg, as did Parler, as did Vieira. You look at Kanu and Wiltord and Reyes, God rest him, every single one of them, Van Persie and Fabregas coming through at that time. They all chipped in. It was all goals by committee. It wasn't like Henry, 30 goals, no one else scored. We had Henry to get 25, 30 league goals, but Pires and Ljungberg were on top with 10 to 15. Vieira, I think, got 7 or 8 that season. We had players that come in like Kanu and Wiltord that had a few. Now we're starting to see similar to that. They're nowhere near that level in terms of the ability that we've got in attack. But I look at the Pires and Ljungbergs thinking, yeah, Saka and Martinelli, that needs to be you. Trossard and Martinelli have done that. It's not actually been Saka this year. Trossard and Martinelli are near double figures already, and we're just over halfway of the season. You look at what Gyökeres has got now. That's 14 goals in all competitions. I think it's 8 goals in the league. Maybe it's not as many as 14 in all competitions. I'll look at it. I should have done that before I went live. But for me, when I look at what he's done, he has contributed as Martinelli, as a Trossard. You've got Eza. People are going, Odegaard. They both contributed and got assists and goals. Madueke and Saka have done the same. Yes, I want to see more, but they have contributed. Declan Rice has. Zubamendi has scored more goals than I ever imagined he would at Arsenal. Another goal at the weekend against Sunderland. So I think every player has contributed to their role a little bit more than I thought they should. And defensively, yes, they're scoring from set pieces, but they're doing their job defensively. Arsenal have every department at the moment pretty much working. other than I'd like to see the attack a little bit more free-flowing. But there has been games where I've seen them free-flowing. It just hasn't been consistent, which the minute Arsenal win 1-0, oh, they're lucky. They scored from a penalty, a corner, an own goal, blah, blah, blah. I would like to see them more free-flowing, but I've seen them free-flowing against Forest at home. I saw them free-flowing against Leeds home and away. I saw us free-flowing against Tottenham. I saw us free-flowing against Villa. I saw us free-flowing yesterday against Sunderland. And I also saw us free-flowing in the Champions League against the majority of the teams we faced in those 8 games. That's why we're top with the best goal difference, right? So there has been a question mark over Arsenal not scoring enough goals. But really and truly, if you compare what we've scored comparison to others, we are scoring. We are doing better. We are one of the most performing teams. We are one of the better teams there. So I've got to be realistic when I say that right now, anybody moaning, I don't really know what you're moaning about. And look, that's coming from me, who is seen as somebody who's quite glass half empty, maybe sometimes pessimistic, maybe wants his best for his team, maybe demands a bit too much, maybe raises the standards, all that kind of stuff. But I'm telling people, don't moan too loudly because trust me, it's a good place we're in right now. I'll be realistic with you when I say this. I don't want to get carried away because we can only go on the next game. But I was asked a question about a potential quadruple or a treble or maybe a double. I think the most realistic probably is a double, but I'm just taking a trophy. But it has to be the league title now. And I'd said to you guys before that it has to be a trophy, and I'd keep him if it was a trophy. But I don't think you can throw away potentially 7 or 9 point gap again. I think that would be inexcusable for me. So it has to be the league. If it is the Carabao Cup alongside that, it's a bloody unbelievably good season. If we was to do a madness and do a treble or a quadruple that people are saying, I mean, it would be historic, biblical, statue worthy, like go down in history, bow down. No one's ever done it before, quadruple. To do a quadruple and an invincible as a club, you've got a lot of banter rights there, right? So before I get carried away and start talking about that, I'm going to give you a route as to how that is the most realistic. Not that I think it will happen because I hold my hands up. We ain't doing a quadruple. I don't even think we'll do a treble, right? But I was talking to judges about this. And if we was to find ourselves heading towards that Carabao Cup final on the 22nd of March, anything above 10 points and above clear, we win that Carabao Cup and you get one in the bag, find yourself 10, 11, maybe even 12 points clear, you can start to concentrate a little bit more on the Champions League than you can in the league. Now, I'm not saying go throw away a 12-point lead, because if anyone's going to do that, it will be Arsenal, right, in their history books. However, I don't think we will do that this time round. And I also think you can start to not sacrifice league games, start losing them, but rotate in those games so you're fit to play in Inter Milan, PSG, or Real Madrid in a quarterfinal or semi-final of a Champions League, which is where I believe we should be at least trying to target at the bare minimum. So for me, if we could get that Carabao Cup, find ourselves 12 points clear, go into the deeper stage of the Champions League to concentrate on that, and then look at where we are in the FA Cup, that's what we need to be doing. Now, that's not how you win a quadruple. That's how you give yourself a chance to win a quadruple. My kind of point here is, if Arsenal are even going to start dreaming about more than one trophy, they need to start putting themselves in a position where they're 12, 13, 14, maybe even 15 points clear of Manchester City. Until we do that, I think it will be very, very difficult to win more than one or two trophies. I really do. And the FA Cup is the one this season that I just don't feel like we are going to go all the way in. I remember going for a quadruple in the Invincible season. We lost in the semi-finals to Middlesbrough in the League Cup. We lost in the semi-finals of the FA Cup to Manchester United. And then, of course, in the Champions League with that Wayne Bridge goal. But I remember trying to juggle it, thinking this is going to be difficult. And I think we should have gone all out for the Champions League and not that FA Cup. And I know that we did put out a bit of a silly team in the FA Cup, but I kind of get why he was doing it. But I feel like we should have just gone all out for it. If you're going to do that in the FA Cup, just go all out for the Champions League, because there's no point, really. I feel like Mikel Arteta might get to around about March, April and think, yes, our squad's strong, but is doing this going to affect this? And what I don't want to do is end up with nothing. Now, if you want my honest opinion, if I can only win two, I'm obviously picking the Premier League and the Champions League. But I truly believe that Carabao Cup is massively important because if it gives you that winning mentality, it installs that mentality to then go and lift something again in May. And I keep saying this. That's why Pep and Jose took it so seriously. And the majority of times they won it, they went on to win the league in May. There's no coincidence. You get that feeling, that belief, that togetherness that we've done it. And you know what? This ain't going to stop. Now, I'll also say this before I close. If Arsenal can do something this season, which in my opinion is realistic by lifting more than one trophy, I think Liverpool have struggled to do it again this season. Manchester City have struggled to be the Manchester City of the treble winners and Centurions since they've done it. Chelsea struggled to do it after they beat and one lifted it with Conte. I don't think this Arsenal side struggled to win again after it. I don't think this Arsenal side go, boom, Premier League, right. It's going to take us a few more years to do that again. I think we are ready to go again. I think the squad is there to go and do it again and again and again. And whether that is with Mikel Arteta or whether in a few years' time we bring in somebody else, I think the squad is there at the right age. When you only look at Christian Norgard as being in his 30s, everyone else is below 30 years old. It's crazy to think that. I think there's only him and Trossard, in case I'm incorrected, and maybe Kepa that are 30 or above 30. Everyone else is under 30 years old. That's incredible. You don't normally get that. You normally get those in their kind of late 30s that are coming to an end, like a Liverpool side with Van Dijk and Alisson and Salah. And then you get your kind of late 20s and then your early teens and 20s. Arsenal have got early teens and 20s, and then it kind of stops. They haven't got anyone 30 or above, really, other than the three players I've mentioned in Trossard, Norgard, and Kepa, who probably won't be there long, right? So when we're using stopgaps, they're 30. They're not 32, 35, 34. Arsenal have got a unbelievable collect of a mean average age of probably 26, 27. That is phenomenal. That means Arsenal will only improve and only continue to be competitive at the top level. Now, we have to keep those players happy. We have to keep the squad rotated so that they all get minutes and they all feel part of it. But that's part of the management, right? Today could be massive. I truly believe if Manchester City draw or lose this game, you'll see content flying out about Arsenal winning the league. And some people always believe we're going to win the league, but I think it would concrete it. And I said the only scenario that I'd get my chest out to say Arsenal winning the league is if Arsenal win against Sunderland and if Manchester City do not beat Liverpool. And if Manchester City do not beat Liverpool, I'll come on here this evening, I'll come on here tomorrow, and I'll come on here for the rest of the week saying, I think Arsenal have won this league. So, don't let me down. Liverpool, you must. And Liverpool must. Let's just say this lastly. Liverpool must. Liverpool absolutely must now. Because if they don't, Chelsea, Manchester United, and even Villa, who drop points again, they all will be more favourable to win a Champions League place via the league than Liverpool will be. Liverpool have to beat Manchester City today. And Liverpool fans and Liverpool players and the manager and coaching staff will want to win today, not because it means Arsenal win the league and they do us a favour and they owe us one. Nothing like that. For selfish reasons, Liverpool need to win. They can't finish outside of the Champions League. It would be a disaster for the club. Not with all the players they've just bought, not with all the money they've just spent, not with the wages they've just given players. They have to. So Liverpool, you must. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, check out the channel merch, and I'll see you on the next one.